taurai zvinetsika kuruzhinji rwevanhu kuti vanzwisisise zvakananga musangano. So it was euphoria for the people. They were getting pieces of land in grazing land to do peasant farming, because the grazing land was good enough and virgin land. It survived for a few years. No need for fertilizer, no need for anything. But later on, it became unproductive. And people started selling firewood for subsistence, and all that come together and come into play. We are saying the commercial farmer was instrumental to the delay of the resettlement program, because they played a trick. They arranged with people, they gave them useless pieces of land, they maintained these other things, which was natural for those who want to hold on to their properties. But a time came when, shall we say, a time came when now politics comes into play. Mugabe, the Lancaster House Conference ends with was no change to the land for 10 years. 1980 independence, 1990 there was talk about changing the constitution. So changing the constitution was saying we are now going to take the land without anybody. We will take the land, but we will not pay. But at that time, Mugabe was still kind of very genuine about stuff. So he says, let's go to the people and see whether they allow this to happen. A referendum was done in 2000, February, thereabout, and it was defeated. Who defeats this thing is now the MDC. The proposal of the government of the day was to confirm or to legalize that we take the land and we take the land and we don't pay. That proposal was defeated and gave rise to the rise of the MDC under Tsvangirai, of course. And so it was a shock for the ZANU-PF government at that time. They did not believe that there was an opposition element in the system or in the country. And so it was that when, of course, in the August elections of that year, Tsvangirai almost won the day against ZANU-PF. But also I want to mention that perhaps Tsvangirai was so excited about the opportunity for power. Tsvangirai at the last rally in Masingo in 2000, thereabout, August, after he rallies the people, he is in position, and his last speech in Masingo, 10,000 of people were in a small ground called Mcheke Stadium. He was amazed. He couldn't believe that he has so much support. He couldn't believe. So he is on record as saying, comrades, I don't know where you are going to be after the elections. He is addressing a people, and he says, I know where I will be. I will be president. You know, so openly and so childishly. He mentions this thing, and the people found that he was another Mugabe coming through. And it was the technicality of the vote in Masingo that really put him down a little bit. And so it was that, no, he narrowly won, but he did not win by his own naivety, in my view. And so it was that ZANU-PF was now wide awake to the possibility of losing an election. We had no plan. ZANU-PF had no plan whatsoever, or fallback plan. There was nothing. They were confident it is going to happen. We will rule until the donkeys grow horns. That was the principle of it. But this Tsvangirai comes in suddenly and almost destroys everything. The Mugabe has no idea of what to do. The people have indicated they don't want his changes of land reform in the earlier referendum. So now it was like, whether you like it or not, we are now going to take the land. But for Mugabe himself, he was a politician, a very good politician, if I may say so. He didn't want a rushed thing. He wanted to buy time. So what does he do? He says, he goes to the war veterans under Chenjerai Hunzi, for example. He says, what shall we do? The comrades, Hunzi was a ZAPU person. He moved into the Unity Army, or the United Comrades, War Veterans Association, we call it. Hunzi was ZAPU, and ZAPU was for taking the land. So he was now the chairman of the War Veterans Association. The government goes to him and says, comrades, what shall we do? Hunzi says, take the land, take the land. That was the feeling of the comrades at that time, take the land. Mugabe says, no, let's give it a little bit, let's give it time, let's have it closely. So an agreement was reached that we will put 5 comrades on each farm gate with 1 AK. 5 comrades, 1 AK on every farm, but more so on the farms along the road, so that people from South Africa coming through, they see, oh my God, these people mean business. It was a political kind of approach to the problem. Now, what happens to the people on the ground? There were people who were extremists on the side of the settler regime. They believed in the rule of law in a very dangerous situation. They believed they owned the land in Zimbabwe because they held title deeds to that land, or they claimed that their grandfathers also were there. But the ZANU-PF, the African politicians, said, we were there long before you. You took this land by force. But then there were these people who believed in the rule of law. There were also the people who said, look here, we are just farmers. We will farm whatever you say. We will farm this land. So there were 2 groups of settlers. There were 2 groups of people. The people who understood the politics of the day or were informed of the politics of the day, and the people who were not informed or didn't even care to find out the politics of the moves. So it was that every farm had a group of comrades on the gate. They were not to tamper with the farmhouse. They were not to cut trees. They were just to make an effective presence.